we'd be taking the term grammar, the grammar that he learned, in a way that didn't imply complete isomorphism.
Sure. Well, certainly we could imagine that certain grammars apparently different would turn out, by the lights of the science itself, to be notational variants. But I just wonder about one remark you made. You said that we wouldn't distinguish the grammars any more finely than two particular sources of evidence. This seems to be laying down ahead of time, ahead of the development of the science, some kind of boundary as to what sort of evidence is even potentially relevant. But now that we see that developmental acquisition evidence could be relevant and decay evidence could be relevant, what's to stop somebody coming up with some yet further source of evidence that could be relevant?
Yes, nothing. I think the reason to take these into consideration is the sense that there's physiological significance behind them. That this way of classifying and organizing promises to fit in better with future findings as to the whole causal mechanism and neural mechanism. Yes, it's certainly conceivable that some third source of data parallel to these might be found that had similar claims.
Can I just ask whether concerning one example, whether you would be willing to countenance it? Suppose that as the science developed, it appeared that a good deal of whatever it was that explained our linguistic ability was shared across all human beings, obviously not all because of the difference between specific languages. If that hypothesis gained credence, then it would seem that in asking what grammar was actually really the grammar of some English-speaking child, it would be conceivably relevant to advert to evidence about the acquisition and decay of language in, say, a Japanese-speaking child. Given enough bridging hypotheses, would this still be fair enough by your lights?
That would be fair enough, yes. But in this matter of linguistic universals, as they've been called, there's, I think, a very important caution that has to be kept in mind. Namely, the mistaken attribution of universality to something. Because when the grammarian goes to work on a exotic language, he's got to have some technical terms to help organize the thing, and the ones that he'll reach for naturally are the ones that are familiar in application to the grammars of languages that he's familiar with, and he'll talk about nouns and verbs and the rest, relative clauses, and they won't be quite the same in these other languages. He'll extend the term, he'll explain what the differences are, but these terms will carry over, and it might be that they get applied where there's no more objective similarity there than might be to in other cases where there's no carryover at all of the terminology. And then the danger is when he surveys all the analyzed languages of the world, he will find what he thinks to be some linguistic universals. Oh, they all have transitive verbs. They all have this, they all have that. How much of this is imposed simply in his terminology, and how much of it is real? So what you need for linguistic universals is a language-independent criterion, that is independent of any particular language, criterion for what constitutes whatever you're going to call a universal. What in this completely broad way, makes something a noun, and the like. And I doubt, although I haven't, I'm not sufficiently familiar with the literature to be convinced of it, but I doubt that proper care is taken on that point.
Yeah. We wouldn't want to pitch the standard too high there, because it's not obvious that in the case of other sciences we insist upon a way of characterizing the evidence which completely abstracts from all the taxonomizing force that the science brings to bear. That would suggest a completely theory-neutral way of characterizing the evidence, which might simply not be available.
Right. Where the danger comes in the case of these linguistic universals is that then one is apt uncritically to be led to think that there's something innate, universal, characteristic of language, where there isn't.
Right. Where it's just the particular spectacles of the linguistic theorist.
Good, yes. Whereas on the other hand, there's every reason to believe that there's a great deal that's innate and universal in the way of language readiness to distinguish us from the other animals that don't have language, more than just the apparatus they share of conditioning and so on. So in that respect, carelessness over the concept of a linguistic universal could lead to a very fundamental error in theory.
Right. But with sufficient caution being exercised, how much is innate is just an empirical question.
Quite so. Yep.
Could I summarize what I take to be your answer to the last two questions, at least with regard to the quotation
Good.
that Paul read? It seems to me from what you've said that what has been understood as an emphasis on behaviorism on your part really is better put as an emphasis on good empirical data and good scientific reasoning. As long as you've got good empirical data and good scientific reasoning, as far as you're concerned, you don't have any other commitment to behaviorism.
Yes. I think you've got that just right. Yes, yes. Yes, I think it's regrettable the way I've let the notion of behaviorism penetrate my writing to the extent that I have. It's led to a lot of misinterpretation and unnecessary.
That seems to capture what Professor Quine said about behaviorism in psychology, but with respect to linguistics, there does seem to be a further point which doesn't have to do with scientific methodology in general, which is the conviction that language simply is a behavioral phenomenon. The facts of language, the facts of meaning are behavioral facts in your view, and that's why the only evidence relevant to theories in linguistics can be behavioral facts.
Yes, I'm not sure how to analyze that notion of language being merely that, because language, in fact, like all behavior, has its physical causes, its neural causes, and then there's all the question of historical detail, development, and rather I would. I think of it as the aspects of language which are the business of linguistics.
Yes.
Theory of communication, say, and verbal behavior. Because, and the reason for limiting one size to that in a particular science, that particular science, is that that covers the entire phenomenon of the learning of language, uniform learning of language, linguistic agreement in a society because of the way we acquire the language. Yes. That's what's peculiarly behavioral about it.